Thank you, Vitaly. I was joking with Billy, how should I start this? And I was like, hey, maybe I can do like a stand-up comedy entrance, like, hey, everybody, how are you feeling? But no, that's not working today. So, hi, everyone. Thanks for attending. As much as everyone are great, we're huge fans and we are beyond excited to be here and also very nervous. So, as Vitaly introduced to us earlier, I'm Jess, my colleague Billy. And so we're going to share our experience bringing user research into our particular and kind of messy world. So our hope is that you can draw some learnings and ideas that you can implement in your practice. We'll be covering our company background to give you context, and we'll then get into the details of our research approach. And finally, we'll walk you through a little project to show you how we make research work for us. And we have our finger crossed that it will spark your creativity to make it work for you. So there are great resources out there to learn how to do user research. Steph Talks was a great example of that. In our view, the piece that's often missing is how to translate the theory to imperfect scenarios, because we all want to do proper, rigorous research, but it isn't always possible. Although that's not an excuse to not do it. So, going through this journey, we've learned that what you need the most is to care about your customers and your company goals. So we probably still make many mistakes, but things are working because research that engages your stakeholders, that provokes discussions, research that helps people make decisions and consider the users is research worth doing, even if not done strictly by the book. So I'll begin with context. Balsamiq is a software company. It started in 2008 with just one guy. Now we're 33. We're a bootstrap company, very independent, no VC money, no investors. So without external pressure, we are free to have fun and be scrappy, I guess. We make Balsamiq wireframes, which is a little wireframing tool, very, very focused on low fidelity. Our goal is to help people put their user interface ideas out there during the initial stages of product development when ideation, feedback, and iteration are the goals. So we want to make design accessible, easy, and fun. We have a broad range of customers, including experts, UX designers. We want to make wireframing fast for them, but our main focus are the people who are not designers or that are new to design. We want to offer them an uncomplicated tool to communicate their great ideas, even if they feel they can't draw. So, founders, developers, PMs, BAs, marketers, farmers with a great idea, we're doing this for you. So our company culture is what we value the most. So we had to adapt our research, our user research practice to this culture that we have to make it possible and engaging, as opposed to forcing a user research practice into our company. So here's where things start to get messy, let's say. So the first hurdle was to make it remote. Balsamiq is remote first, geographically distributed company with customers all over the world. Billy is in Los Angeles. I'm in Italy, in Bologna. So we have always been this way and we will continue to be. So we do research fully remote. That's fairly common now because of the pandemic, but before it was a challenge. And the compromise here was that in person activities couldn't be a regular part of our toolbox. We've discovered it is okay. Remote research is more than a contingency plan. It can be your only plan and things can work out, sort of. So we work very autonomously without work managers, command chain, etc. So we cling to our company values to guide us whenever we have to make decisions and start initiatives. So these are our six company values. So one of the values that's key to us is always be listening. So being remote and independent means that we've had to chart our own path and create and evolve our own ways of doing things. We have a DIY approach to most things. We're used to wear many hats and learn on the job. I started as a marketing person, now I'm a user researcher. And this is exactly what motivated us to learn user research. And it sort of gave us permission to find alternative ways of doing it. So probably the biggest detour we've taken from the standard path is that we only do qualitative research, and that's because we're not metrics driven, we're people driven. In our company, we don't measure anything. We don't do analytics except for revenue to make sure things are going well. So one reason is that we value human interactions above all things. And the second reason is that we believe that working with metrics is complicated. It requires a significant amount of data and specific skills, not to mention the ethical challenges. So we've come to the conclusion that since even when all the most precise analytics, even if you have those, you will still need to ask people why. So it was better for us to just talk to our customers instead of rummage through analytics. So hearing users is the ultimate source of insights for us. Okay, so this particular slide was made by Billy. I want you to know that. So how user research happens at Balsamiq with all those constraints? Through customer service, even before we had a UX team. These teams are in a precious position in the front line. So it makes sense to empower them so they can go above and beyond. They are more than technical support for us. They identify problems and track the issues. They know how to pick up patterns and advocate for the users. Our customer service team works closely with product management, development, and UX, and this is key. We all communicate and collaborate. We fight silos and hierarchies in favor of fluidity and alignment. They have a seat at the roadmap table where they bring the voice of the customer. So for us, user research intended as learning about the problems and building empathy for our users is a company effort. Everyone should know who they are working for and what problems they have. There are many ways you could accomplish this. We do it talking to people via super tickets, calls, forums, but also our Slack community. We treat every interaction as a possibility for insights, human to human, no chatbot, no AI, no automation. RPM, our QA developers are also present in all these channels. You can see our CEO there having conversations. Our designers have done support. Our technical writer, education, everyone has done some sort of support or interaction with our customers. It may seem like a lot, but the reality is that that close contact gets you far when building usable, desirable products. So, still a few years ago, we've decided to build our user research practice to bring in some rigor and get better. Of course, it was not without resistance because we were used to our way of doing things and we were very comfortable with that. Where we consider ourselves to be fluent in UX, in part thanks to Billy and the education team. And our product is very mature. It's been out there for 14 years. But there's always room for improvement, right? And the value of user research was quickly understood. So we got green light to do it. We started conducting studies on-demand basis when problems arose. You could say it was very reactive, but now we've moved to a model that fits us better. We have user research conduct in-depth sessions on ongoing basis, even if there's not a specific problem going on. So recruiting is always bringing in people, and we're ready to adapt to the user persona and the scenario that's in front of us. We have many different scripts prepared, always updating them with cues from customer service, product management, design, and our own previous research. It means we're not waiting for our request to arrive. So this is similar, or at least inspired, on what dual track tries to accomplish in agile environments, but instead of starting only when there's a challenge, we also proactively look for it. So to emphasize the idea of this model of how we adapted research to our real world, to our imperfect world, we gather lots of information on ongoing basis, and we always have an updated picture of the current experience. When we need to gain more knowledge, we do ad hoc studies, which is for us the regular way. When we only did ad hoc studies, um, for a metaphor that I like to use, it is that it was like a regular elevator. A queue will form, people will exasperate, and they might just take the stairs. In other words, they will develop without user research. So continuous research is like a paternoster leaf. Do you know those? They're popular in Europe. They're always moving and can load people constantly, and as opposed to the regular elevators. So if you ever tried this, at the beginning, reactive research will be predominant, but after a while, continuously researching and harnessing support will pay off and even inform your roadmap at some point, and so you don't have to be so um, you don't have to conduct regular research in such a rigorous way. We also have a program that makes interviews available to everyone and encourages people to join me in sessions. That way, the knowledge percolates and whomever needs to know can know. User research is increasingly becoming part of our culture, which is a desirable thing for fostering empathy and make sure people understand the problems. Right now we're training a customer support person, a customer service person as a product manager because she's amazing, and we are going to start by having her doing interviews. So the byproduct of all this effort is that you will build meaningful relationships with your customers. They will be genuinely grateful and even flattered because you're valuing their expertise. Not to say they directly tell us what we should do, but they show you why, they show you how they do the things, and that's all you need to make decisions. In our case, they report bugs, usability issues, and they give us ideas. They're always enthusiastic about interviews and tests. So we have built a research panel of hundreds of customers who want to help, and we also have power users in our Slack community that test whatever we throw at them before release, and this saves us a lot of time in user research. And when we finally release to the broad customer base, the update is very, very reliable. So here's a sort of diagram of how user research works within the product development process. We do other types of research for other areas of the company. We also do jobs to be done, positioning, and other stuff. But here is how we how we work with the development team. You can't research all the things. It will need too many resources, and we think there's a place for gut feeling in product design, especially with a team that's fluent in UX and in close contact with customers. So the outline boxes represent research activities we do depending on the development phase and also the needs. And so what I'll do now is I'll share a little example of a user research project specifically done in the discovery phase, which is the part people tend to neglect. We choose a project that shows how the work done upfront with customer service and continuous research brought value and saved time defining the problem to solve. But we also had to combine it with a regular study to fill in the gaps. It is a project we call data grid improvements, which simply means improving a component inside our tool that people use to draw tables. So I think it's relevant to tell you how we form project teams. Product development is not only a PM thing or a developer thing. So as I hinted before, everyone is involved in road mapping, but also in projects. Before it was more fragmented, you could say, but we saw the value in openness and collaboration. In every project, we have a customer service representative, we have the product manager, the designer, there's the project developer, the QA, and I'm also there as a UX researcher. So some people are there mostly for awareness, and at any point they can step out if they consider they're no longer needed. And this approach has turned out to be less expensive than having people coming later because they will have to catch up, they will lack context, etc. So here is where we start when we want to unpack a problem that we decide to tackle. This is an in-house integration we've created for customer service to collect the problem patterns they identify. We track continuous research findings in a similar way. Support's main focus is to help the users with their specific problem, but a simple question as what were you trying to do can give you a lot of information, and they save it here. And for this project, there were already 6 interviews that we had done before we even knew we were going to work in this project, and 150 or over 150 data points that we didn't have to go and research to understand the gist of the problem. It was already there. Remember that you don't need hundreds of data points in qualitative research. You need enough to see patterns. I don't know how to call it, reach a saturation point, if you will. So basically, the discovery work was more than halfway done for us. The designer and I always review these stories and to start before start defining the problem. So now we were ready to write a problem statement that tells us what needs to be done. And thanks to qualitative information, we understood that people were having trouble creating richer tables. They wanted to put things in there different than letters and numbers, like icons, for example. So the workarounds they were trying were getting them out of flow, taking them way too much time and requiring too much thought. So all bad things for UX. And I'm not sure what analytics will have told us about this problem. Maybe a decrease in the feature usage. We don't know. We'll never know. But so with a video and the stories we collected from people, you can see it quickly. The problem was that when users wanted to enrich their tables, to demonstrate states, actions, and other types of data, they had to do all sorts of things like creating a space and overlay elements and then group the whole thing because it will break when they move it around if they don't group them. And so imagine what will happen if they try to, I don't know, edit the table to insert more information. So it was trouble. It was trouble, and it was very clear hearing their stories and watching what they were trying to do. Nonetheless, we run something we call a user research needs assessment questionnaire. It's a mouthful, but it's simply a survey, something that we created mainly for the product manager and the designer to fill out, and it's something that helps us. That forces us to think well about the trade-off and be aware of how much we know and don't know about the problem. So this is to keep us on check, basically. And in this case, we thought the problem was clear enough to start brainstorming solutions. Like people when saw, okay, there's a problem with tables, they immediately thought, okay, let's fix the table. But thanks to the assessment conversation, thanks to the assessment survey, we realized we had doubts about the scope. The range of possible improvements was too broad, and some weren't aligned with our product philosophy. So we decided to research a bit more to pinpoint the critical issues and clarify it, because staying aligned with our philosophy is very important. This tool main focus is on people who don't feel confident about drawing or are not designers, and this has to be easy for them. So you can see some quotes we were able to pull out from the interviews we already had done. And what we needed to do now was just to follow up with these users and ask more questions. And here's where having good relationships and tracking problems pays off. We know who has what issues and we go talk to them. We have the luxury, I will say, of someone helping us with operations. My colleague Laura, she emails them or asking our Slack community. And before we need to think of fancier recruiting, we already have enough sessions booked. And we also interview other people from our research panel to have a sort of control group and make sure we're not solving for extreme use cases, but keeping our main persona, our best fit customers at the center of the project. And our interviews are structured into two phases. Like during the session, we do two parts. One, to know the people context, their goals, and yeah, I guess we're trying to gain context around the goals they have and the task that they are trying to perform in the tool. And the other part of the session we dedicated to observe how they're using the tool to accomplish these goals. So what workarounds are they using, etc. So by the end of the week, when we did this project, we had completed about 12 interviews, and so we were ready to move to making decisions. So we don't think you need lengthy reports to communicate research when you have videos. We do a one-pager in our wiki that includes notable insights, recommendations, and a highlight reel, but also link to the videos. Both the designer and the PM tend to watch the interviews. Our PM even has done interviews, so there's also a lot of trust in this process. But there's also a lot of trust in this process. So it can happen that not everyone watches everything, but then they recognize their lack of knowledge and trust you are there to guide them with recommendations. So for us, having being able to do research in our particular world, something that's very, very core to the work is that we trust each other a lot. Since we don't measure anything, we don't know the ROI of all this effort. We value the impact in terms of clarity, confidence, and direction. So what started as improving tables become a project about improving one of the core features of our tool, which is text-based editing. And here is where talking to people and watching what they do proves its worth. We could have stopped at tables and fixed that, but the problem was in other places affecting a lot more. And what we've discovered require a reformulation of the problem, and that will bring more value than just stopping at what you assume. So I guess we didn't reformulate the problem. We actually were more aware that the solutions that we were thinking weren't the right solutions. So now we're first focusing in allowing people to add icons, as you can see in the video, then we will tackle other areas. So to wrap up, in this case, all the qualitative material gave us the exposure we needed for defining the problem, and it also allowed us to clarify the scope. And it enabled us to move forward with confidence, maintaining a direction that was aligned with our user goals, but also with our product philosophy. So to end, to summarize, we think user research can be flexible. You can tailor research to your reality. We think research your way is better than no research or obstructive research. Our scenario is very particular. Yours might be that your boss doesn't want to do research or that there are too many silos, but be confident that you can come up with an approach that fits you. So for us, rigor is not the goal. The goal is clarity, confidence, and direction. The message I was getting from many sources was about doing research right, which is important, but the ultimate goal is to understand the people, their problems, and help your colleagues make better decisions. And so we took that principle and that allowed us to adapt research to our world. Um, Talking frequently with your customers and building good relationships with them will help you make your product useful and lovable. And that, of course, will make your customer happy and willing to help you. It is a virtuous cycle that you want to reinforce. And so that's it for us. We'd love to hear from you. Any feedback or questions will be appreciated. You can also reach out to us anytime. So thank you so much for your attention.
All right. Well, excellent. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation at this point. So many different insights, and kind of it's always interesting to get insight about the inner workings and how it all works. I have a question. Let me just double check. Well, there is one more question that came from Andrea, but maybe just briefly, I could ask something before I jump in, because I think it's going to be quite just a quite quick note. I thought it was really interesting to hear you saying that there is a place for gut feeling in user research. I like that. Very often I have a feeling like, yes, well, I can see this in research, but I'm a designer. I know better, maybe. So would you say that there is a place for this indeed, or do you think that, there is this place for evidence-based design? Because very often, I don't know, this is something I think I kind of keep kind of bringing up every now and again in conversations with friends. Nobody really trusts me. So when I come in and I want to do my research, right, I always have to bring in results. So that means I need to bring evidence that the thing that I believe in, the thing that I'm kind of working on, the thing that I'm suggesting to spend the next few sprints on is worth it. So I need to bring evidence that what we have before and what we have after are statistically different, right? I would put it this way. What would you suggest to do there? Is there still a place for hunches in these scenarios?
I'll take it, Billy. Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% sure that there's place for hunches. There should be, right? I mean, we as a company, we're very opinionated. And so we think that your touch is what gives identity to your product also, And so that's my take on it. But let's go to the more I don't know how to say it, theoretical explanation. I don't know. So it depends on what you're building and for whom you're building, and how much experience do you have building for this audience and building this product. So in our case, we've been doing the same thing. So Balsamiq has 14 years and has changed very little. Our PM is our CEO, and he knows this inside out, and he does support. He knows our customers so much. And also something that helps is that, at least at the beginning, he created this because he was kind of scratching his own itch. So he was kind of one of the type of users that will use this tool. So of course his hunches are right, but still I created this questionnaire that I show in some of the slides. It's just a simple Google form where I ask him some questions to help kind of remove the bias or reduce the risks. And I ask questions of a lot, like, I don't know, how much people is this going to impact, and how hard it will be to roll it back if it goes wrong, and stuff like that. So we try to measure risk, and if the risk is low, like, go for it, because I think having fun is also part of the job. We believe
Is
that,
it?
really.
Oh, really? Do you believe that as well? Is fun a part of the job as well?
You can tell by my contribution of the Montel Jordan gif. That's how I roll. No, what I was going to say too, and especially the hunches with metrics-driven analytics, a lot of times you have to interpret that data, and that's kind of up to us. And you want to pair that with the speaking with users and the qualitative stuff. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think there was also a note that came up from Andreas saying that gut feeling hunches are probably more targeted towards story-driven people, which is probably true other than situations where you have to deal with numbers, data, and facts. Indeed.
Yeah.
A few things that I have here. There are two more questions that came up. One of them also from Andre. Jess, when you are in such a close contact with customers, aren't you anxious or embarrassing yourself when asking questions? as in, how do you ensure psychological safety, and is it okay to be wrong?
Oh, I hope it is okay because I'm always wrong. but something, but something that gives me some sort of comfort. I don't know if that's the right word. Sorry, my English sometimes is not great. Is that sometimes the wrong question can elicit right answers. So I mean, I I was embarrassed. I'm always embarrassed. When I have this super booked schedule with interviews, I'm so anxious. And also because my colleagues are going to see it and are going to think, oh, that was a stupid question. But I just take everything as an opportunity for learning. And I mean, feedback sometimes is vitamins, sometimes is medicine. It will do you good if you take it. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is that sometimes being wrong takes you anyway to the right result. So don't be afraid. And also, you learn. I mean, I remember the first time I did an interview. I was so nervous. My native language is Spanish, and I do this in English, and I couldn't understand one thing this person was saying to me. So following up was so hard. I was so nervous. I couldn't understand anything. So yeah, I leave it. I leave it. I leave it that.
I just want to add
Yeah.
something too. Is it's okay. I think it needs to be a human to human interaction. So if you feel like that can build the psychological safety, if you say like, "Oh, sorry, I messed up," or you make it a conversation where everyone feels comfortable, you're going to get realer answers, better answers. And it's a lot what we teach people when they're doing research is how to, connect with them and engage with them, make them feel safe. So if you do say like, I'm sorry, I'm embarrassed, I didn't understand that, English is my second language and I didn't know what you said, can you please repeat that? That's automatically a human connection that can help grow the relationship and you get more honest feedback, which is what you ultimately want.
Yeah. One last anecdote I want to add to that is that I recently forgot to turn on the recording. And so it was a great interview, one of the best. And I just didn't record it. So I just reached out to the guy as a human because we're both humans. And I was like, that interview was great, but unfortunately I didn't record it. I'm so sorry. Do you think we can have 15 minutes to do a recap? And he was so kind, like so kind. These are busy people, but they're still people. So yeah, I think that's the thing.
Cool. Excellent. Well, I think that we'll hear a little bit more from you in the upcoming, in just after the next session in the panel. It'll be wonderful to see your insights and hear your insights over there. But for now, thank you so much for joining us and for your wonderful presentation, Jess and Billy. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.